Sometimes when I know a lot of us relate with St. Thomas because of his doubts, right? And sometimes I will hear a lot and they'll just call him Doubting Thomas, which, I guess that's a good label, but they forget that after Thomas doubted Jesus, he said one of the most profound claims about Jesus. He says eventually, "My Lord and my God." And I wear this color because they said that St. Thomas traveled to India and he preached the gospel, friends, for 25 years. Over 25 years, and eventually they said the story was that he was praying, and out of the king's orders, they took a spear and they pierced him while he's praying. Died for his faith. Doubting Thomas, right? Doubting Thomas, who gave up his life. A lot of times, this one person, sometimes people will be praying, and I say this a lot. People have this idea that when we're praying, we have to pretend. What do I mean? Pretend that we're perfect, pretend we have everything together, pretend that everything is okay and we're not struggling at all. Because if God sees that we're struggling for some reason, maybe he won't really help us. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I tell this to teens a lot. We don't have to be perfect to go to God, right? But how many of us believe that we have to be perfect? That God won't hear us unless we do this and this and this. But you know why that's silly? Because God sees everything. So he already knows your imperfections. And guess what? He loves you anyway. But because we're human, we put this barrier and we think we have to be perfect, and then we're allowed to pray. And so sometimes people will say, "Father, when I pray, I just tell God, I just say, God, I believe and I trust and I don't have any doubts." And then I'm like, "Well, what's wrong with that?" Well, said, "Father, I do struggle with doubts. I believe in God." Notice, friends, doubting is, as daily mass people, I am sure you don't doubt that God is real. You wouldn't be here, right? If you were doubting that God is not here, we should talk, right? But doubt comes in many forms. Doubting that God would help you in your marriage, doubting that God would guide you in a certain issue or sin or struggle, that God would help you with your job or your career, your personal life. Doubts come in many different forms. Because sometimes when you think of St. Thomas, you think, Father, I have no doubts about Jesus' existence, but maybe if God would help my mother or my children come back to the faith, then yes, Father, I have doubts. And when I tell people, I say, in your honesty, go to the Lord. Just as in the gospel, St. Thomas, he said, "I will not believe." He shared his doubts and his struggles. "I will not believe unless." And we know the story. What does Jesus do? Friends, Jesus comes in his wounds and he allows St. Thomas to touch him, to experience his profound love. His wounds was the one that opened his eyes to believe. And for us, I want us to understand that it is Jesus' love and Jesus' wounds that also helps us to believe radically how much Jesus Christ loves us and that he still has a plan. One time I read this book. He used the word, he said, Jesus wants to woo us with his love. W-O-O, you guys know that word. It's used in romantic language that the person wants to woo the other. And I read that, I was like, that's so weird. I don't want to see Jesus like that. As a guy, that's weird. But as a guy who's maybe having issues with thinking about Jesus like that, it was like, well, no. Jesus Christ wants to woo all of us with his wounds. I shared this story before about Saint Faustina, how she wanted to get the person to write the image of the Divine Mercy image. And the person drew the image and she said, "No, that's not right, because Jesus has his wounds." And the artist said, "Why would you want to put the wounds?" And then she said, "Because that's what Jesus wants. Jesus wants us to know and understand that his wounds are part of him, even in heaven, because that's his profound love and salvation for the world." My dear friends, I don't know what your doubt is. I don't know if it's big. I don't know if it's small. I don't know if it's for what sin or what struggle it is. But understand that I have this, how do I say this? I firmly believe that every single saint that ever existed struggled profoundly. But we only see the end result and we think there's no way I can follow them because I'm this and I'm this and I'm that and I'm this and I'm that. My dear friends, that is the worst lie from Satan, is that you cannot be a saint because you are not perfect. Lies, lies, lies. Every single saint, whatever their struggle was, some struggled in different ways, but all of us share the same humanity, my dear friends. Let St. Thomas give you the inspiration that the man who doubted said in the end, "My Lord and my God, you are everything."